In hospitals and emergency rooms across the world, there are many patients who are in need of donor blood. There's a huge demand for it because donor blood can save lives. If a patient is in surgery, an IV drip of donor blood can resupply them should the surgery get a little messy. If a patient has suffered immense mechanical trauma and has lost a lot of blood, an IV supplying fresh donor blood can be the difference between life and death. Unfortunately, the demand for donor blood is virtually always greater than the supply, as people get hurt or have surgeries far more often than they donate blood. On top of this, donating blood isn't just as simple as plugging in the IV and pumping in fresh blood. There are different blood types based on certain sugars that protrude from the membranes of red blood cells. These membrane-bound sugars are like signals that provide chemical information to the body's immune system. Some of these blood types are compatible with each other, but others are not. If you get a blood donation from an incompatible blood type, your immune system will flare up, as it perceives the donor blood with its incompatible sugars as an overwhelming assault from a foreign pathogen. The immune response is devastating, destroying blood cells, and if nothing is done, it can be deadly. So, for example, you have type A blood, which is incompatible with type B blood. So if a person with type B gets a donation of type A blood, that can be a life-threatening problem. This is why it's so important to match blood types when patients receive a blood donation or a blood transfusion. Now, there's also blood type O, which doesn't have any membrane sugars. The red blood cells in a patient with blood type O don't express these particular membrane sugars. They don't have them. This means that there's nothing to trigger the patient's immune system. So type O blood can be donated to anyone. This universal blood type is extremely valuable, but unfortunately, it's not that common. Blood type A, type B, and type AB are all far more common. Blood type O is pretty uncommon. So this brings me to the good news that I want to tell you about today, which is about a study that was recently published in the journal Nature Microbiology. For years, scientists have been trying to develop ways to turn more common types of blood into type O blood, but they haven't had much luck. Some progress has been made, but nothing economical has come out of the labs. Nothing that can solve the global problem of donor blood shortages. That is, until chemical biologist Stephen Withers and his research team at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, started to look at the human gut and the many microbes that live within it. Human cells lining the gut express sugars in their membrane called mucins, and many of these gut bacteria eat the mucin. Interestingly, the mucin sugars share many structural similarities with the sugars on blood cells that determine the blood type. They found that a gut bacteria called Flavinifractor plottii produces at least 2 enzymes that can very effectively consume and break down the sugars that define type A blood. In the lab, they applied the enzymes to samples of type A blood, and they saw that the sugars were cleaved right off. The type A blood, in effect, was converted into type O blood. This process is far more efficient and effective than anything yet developed in this particular field of research, so this discovery could be potentially groundbreaking. Now, the research isn't over. Dr. Withers and his team have to make sure that the enzymes didn't do anything unexpected or deleterious to the blood cells. They have to make sure that this process is metabolically and immunologically safe. If they succeed, and this technique makes it to market, we could see huge changes in the blood market that could save thousands of lives. Type A blood makes up about 1/3 of all donor blood, and if it's all converted to type O blood, which can be donated to anyone regardless of their blood type, then the supply of type O blood will virtually double. This would reduce the demand pressure for compatible donor blood immensely, and it would reduce complications and fatalities caused by mistakenly administered incompatible blood transfusions. It's very possible that further research could find ways to turn type B blood or type AB blood into type O blood as well, in which case the world's donor blood supply could be universally changed to type O, and these complications and fatalities could be entirely eliminated. The demand pressure for donor blood would go down considerably, as all of this donor blood could be converted into a type that would be compatible with everyone. This means that there would be no more mixing and matching compatible blood types, no more complications or fatalities from not having compatible blood available on site. Stuff like this, I think, really has the potential to make it out of the lab and into the real world, where it can save the lives of thousands, if not millions of people.